Good morning, Computer Science 10. This is Mr. Gorilla, broadcasting from Louis Saint Laurent. So hopefully you're all doing well. Well, you should at this point have the collector card already done, the team points already done, so you kind of have the basics. What we're going to try to do in this online course or the rest of the course is get you those other skills you really need to go into Computer Science 20. So we're going to focus more on P5. Unfortunately, the robotics is going to go a little bit to the side because, well, you don't all have robotics sitting at home. So until we end up back at school, we'll focus on mostly on P5. Now, some of these things we're going to be doing here are some of the key parts of programming, and it really opens the door for what you can actually do. Lots of you, when you were trying to do your collector card or your team points, you really wanted more control, and that's where we're going to go right now. So what you should see on the screen is just a Word document, and we're going to start talking about if, else if, and else statements. Now, between the three of these, you get a pretty good control over things, and you can actually tell the computer to do a lot of different things depending on what key you're pressing or what you're clicking on the screen. So let's just start with if and else, though. It'll make life a little bit easier. So an if statement is think about real life. So I said if, and we'll put this in brackets, if you're at home. You're at home. You would want something to happen. So this is kind of like your argument, is what we're going to call this. And if that argument is true, so if it's true, you are at home, raise your hand. Now, let's say if that's not true, if that's false, what do you want to happen? So that's where this else statement comes in. So if this statement is not true, then what do you want to happen? Well, do jumping jacks. Do jumping jacks. Now, if you're actually following along, that's going to look ridiculous. But this is how a computer works. If you want this, or we have these other options. The biggest worry is you don't want the computer not to have an option. So for instance, I'm playing PlayStation and I click a bunch of buttons in a random order, and this has happened for kids doing this. There's mashing on buttons, and the PlayStation doesn't know what to do with these button combination. And so they'll actually hack systems because programmers haven't allowed for any combination. This else should allow for that. So if the computer doesn't know what doesn't match anything, this is where it's going. Now we can add more conditions into this, and that's where this else if comes in. And it does read it in order. So once one of these conditions is true, the computer stops reading. You'll also notice that I'm indenting for all of these. That's how the computer recognizes that, hey, if you're at home, then this is the area of code I need to look at for it to happen. Or if else, let's say you're at the mall for some reason. Well, you shouldn't be there, but if you're at the mall, do push-ups. Now, it's not going to do both push-ups and jumping jacks. The computer reads from top to bottom. So if you're at home, raise your hand. It stops reading after that. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't do any of this. However, if you're not at home, but you are at the mall, then you do push-ups. You would actually stop before doing the jumping jacks. Only if both of these are false or not true do you actually do the jumping jacks. Now, how does that help us? So now we're back to P5, and we're going to look how those if statements actually will help us. We're going to make a color picker sample code, meaning that we can actually change the color on something. And we're going to do that for text. So to start, we're going to leave the canvas as 400 by 400, and we're going to look in our draw function. Now we want the background to actually change colors. Or sorry, so instead of it being just 220, so that's just the color we picked off of there, I'm going to do red, green, and blue. Now with that, I need to actually initialize those variables and say, hey, computer, I want you to acknowledge those. So we'll do that at the start, just like we've done the whole time. So we're going to let R equal 0 to start. And we'll let G equal 0 as well. And let B equal 0. Okay, there we go. So now when this program first starts up, the background should read as 0, 0, 0. So let's just make sure it works. Perfect. Now if I change these variables, let's say I make this to 100 for the blue value, yeah, it goes a little bit more blue. And if I change the green value to make it a little more green, oh, perfect. You can see it's a little bit lighter. So it is working. These values are changing as I'm changing my variables. Now, I don't want to be able to have to type in what each variable is. I want to be able to control that, at least a little bit to start. So what we're going to have to do then is actually do a function I want to do. Sorry, no, we have to. I want to do a function key pressed. Now, the whole time we've been using function key pressed, but we were kind of just doing if any key was pressed, which isn't great. We want more control than that. And so we're going to use if statements to do that. So if, now your argument always goes inside these brackets, and then you have these curly brackets as well. Now these curly brackets tell the computer what you want to happen if the statement is true. So the argument goes inside the curved brackets. So here in this case, we're going to go if the key. Now key is already a special variable inside of P5. It's going to take whatever keystroke you hit. So to start, we'll just do B. Okay, so if key B, and so we're going to have to do not just equals. So this would say if key equals B. Well, okay, that doesn't actually work. That's actually setting the key to B. We want to do a double equals there. So if key is B, so that compares to B, we want something to happen. And what I want is I want the blue color to actually become 255 then. And so now if I hit play, it should work. It doesn't look like this. Oh, I have to hit blue for this to work. So now I'm hitting the key blue. Yes, perfect. It hits blue. Turns blue. Now let's go to another one then. So I'm going to, so inside the same key pressed function, so I'm still inside this key pressed function from here to here. Let's do the same thing for the if different key. So what if I want to change the green one? So what if the key is equal to G? So that's my green. So there's my argument. And this inside of here, well, what do I want to happen? Well, notice again, I'm tabbing over because I want the computer to know what's in between there. It's also for reading. Then I want actually the G value to become 255. So if I hit play, it should go back to being black. If I hit blue, it should hit blue. If I hit green, uh-oh, something happened here. It went teal. So let's try that again. Hit play, I hit green. It does go green. The problem though is that when I hit blue, the value of blue is still 255. And the value of green is also 255. So teal is 0, 255, 255. So we need to change that a little bit. Whenever I hit the blue button, I want to actually set those other values. So for instance, green, I want that to be 0 now. Now this is tabbed over weird for some reason. There we go. But if you look, it's not just green and blue for the background, it's also red. So I also want my red value to equal 0. Okay. And I need to do the same thing for the other key. So for instance, when the green G is hit, I want green to be 255, and now I want blue to be 0, and I want red to be 0. Okay, let's see if that works. Oh, that's an O. There we go. So let's try that again. So I hit green. Yeah, it went green. I hit blue. It went blue. Perfect. We're almost done, and we're almost done this video. So the very last one, hey, we want that keystroke to also do the same thing for red. So if the key is equal to red, and then curly brackets, but so again, this is my argument if key is equal to red. And then, hey, I want the red to be 255 this time. Okay, so there's red. This time I want my green to be 0, and I want my blue to be 0 as well. Okay, perfect. So let's try that out. So if I hit red, it goes red. If I hit green, it goes green. If I hit blue, it goes blue. Perfect. That part is done.